Hello, how are you? I'm Dr. Marty Martin, and I'm a faculty member at DePaul University in the city of Chicago. I'm going to talk about a topic today that many of you are familiar with, and it's entitled, I Hate Working in Groups. So as a member of a business school faculty, what I often do is assign students to work in groups. In a lot of cases, you kind of get this look from students is, I hate working in groups. Why are you forcing us to work together? Then oftentimes what I'll say is, wait, time out here. You're enrolled in a school of business, so you're going to be administering things. You're going to be working with people, bright people, not so bright people, cooperative people, not so cooperative people. So one of the skills that you have to learn is, how do you lead a group? Also, how do you follow in a group? How do you identify and resolve conflict? How do you make sure that you get things done as an individual, but also the group gets things done? Now, I could understand that if you were enrolled in a program that was an English literature program, perhaps, or maybe a chemistry program, you may ask the question, why am I working in a group? I hate working in groups. Then I could understand. But the fact of the matter is, whether you're in accounting, whether you're in finance, marketing, management, ops, econ, whatever it is, you're going to work in groups. So what I hope to do at the end of this presentation is to give you some concrete skills such that you can work better in groups. You still may hate working with groups, and they may hate working with you, but hopefully you'll be able to do it in a better fashion, in a more productive fashion, and less stressful. So first, let's define what a high-performance team is. So all groups are not teams, and all teams are not high performance. But if you really kind of aim for a high-performance team, then you may be able to really direct your energy to achieving that. So here's kind of a dictionary definition. Number one, a group of people with complementary skills who interact to achieve a common objective. Two key things there. First, you need a common shared goal. So in the case of working in groups and programs, degree programs, typically it's to get a good grade in the course and to get a good grade on that assignment. So you got a shared common objective. Complementary skills. Now in a lot of cases you don't get to choose who you work with, you're assigned. So that's the downside, but that just comes with the territory. Second part of the definition, a group of people committed to a common purpose. What does commitment look like? It's not just, hey, I hope we get an A, but committed not just in verbs and words, but committed in action and in behavior. Common performance goals. So they're rolling up their sleeves, working to achieve something, and an approach for which they hold themselves collectively responsible. It inevitably happens. I assign different work groups to do certain things in my courses, and I'll get some emails, I'll get a text, occasionally I'll get a telephone call. Basically is, Dr. Martin, so-and-so's not playing nice, and I want you to fix it. So what I do is I send an email back and say, tell me a bit more about it, and they tell me, so-and-so's not doing this, they're not doing this, they won't play nice. So I send another email back, and I say, have you given them any feedback? Either I don't hear from that student anymore, or they tell me no. They want me to give them the feedback. Now maybe if they were English literature, or maybe chemistry, I might intervene and step in, but I don't. So what do? I coach them on how to give the feedback. And my hope is after looking at this particular presentation that you're more inclined to give direct feedback. It doesn't have to be confrontational, but you have to give direct feedback. Let's think about what President FDR said. People acting together as a group can accomplish things that no individual acting alone could ever hope to bring about. I'm a firm believer in that, but that applies to a high-performance team. It applies to a group, even group projects in school settings, where people give feedback to one another. They know what the common purpose is. They have a common approach of working together, and they hold each other and themselves accountable. So I want to share with you a video clip about miracles. Those of you that may be hockey fans, you'll remember that miraculous day, that miraculous 2 minutes when the United States of America won a goal. So please take a look at this clip. Remember, there's a front story to this, but just this one moment. and think about peak performance and flow. And what can you do in your groups and your teams and projects, be they at work or be they at school, to really achieve that miracle status. Now, some of you hate those sports metaphors and analogies, and I can appreciate that. So I'm going to try to be fair and balanced. So if sport's not your thing, then maybe sisters singing, that may be your thing. Now, if any of you saw Sister Act 1, not so much Sister Act 2, you'll remember that Whoopi Goldberg was in this witness kind of protection program, and then she wound up in working in a convent, and she started to lead the choir. Now, when she first started to work with the choir, I mean, the singing was absolutely awful. Off-key, uncoordinated, no common purpose. It was a mess. So she really developed that group into a high-performing team, and I want to give you a taste of what they sounded like after Whoopi worked with them. But it was not just Whoopi. She was a good team leader, but she also had some good followers. And some of those sisters, they had strong personalities, like some of the members in your group. So what are the key commonalities between Miracles and the Sister Act video vignettes? One is, in both cases, there was a commitment to shared goals. In both cases, they agreed on an approach by which to achieve those goals. In both cases, they developed a process to get the work done. And you saw the work. In those clips that I showed you, it was amazing work. And in both cases, there was cross-training. So maybe in your group, someone's very good at PowerPoint or Prezi. Another person is very good at actually the delivery. Another person may be very good at formatting references. So you want to make sure that people do what they're good at, but you also want to cross-train. Because you've been in certain groups is you're depending upon one person because they have that unique skill set and they don't show up. Now everybody's mad because they can't move forward. But if you cross-train, you can eliminate that problem. So some other key commonalities between those two video clips. They executed on the process. You saw the execution in Miracles during that last about 2 minutes. You saw the execution in Sister Act when you heard the singing. And they evaluate and self-correct. That's extremely important. How do they self-correct? They give feedback. What's another way that they self-correct? They hold each other accountable. No emails to Dr. Marty Martin, maybe emails to one another, but more importantly, in a respectful fashion, go back to the other person and say, you know, this is my view of what happened. I want to get your point of view. And I thought we agreed that we would submit the materials by such and such a date. Lastly, they celebrate victories. So when you are working on a group or team in school or at work, celebrate your movement towards the goal, and then when you finally achieve the goal, celebrate that. However, I've really kind of portrayed the best options, if you will, and the best scenarios. There are 2 group minefields I want to tell you about. I'm just going to describe to you what you already know. The first one is Groupthink, and the second one is called social loafing. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive on Groupthink, but I want to share with you this particular video. And in this video, it'll really kind of show you what Groupthink is, and it really goes back to what they call the Ash experiment. And Ash was a psychologist, and he did an experiment that showed the conformity effect. This operates in groups, and in a lot of cases, it's not so functional. So what you want to be able to do is prevent groupthink. So there are a number of different things you can do to prevent groupthink. First, ask each group member to serve in the role as a critical evaluator. So you don't want to take everything on face value. You want to dig a little bit deeper. You want to ask questions. So you're not asking questions about a person's character, but asking questions about their facts, their analysis, their data, but doing it in a supportive way, not as if you're a cross-examining attorney. And you want to diverge before you converge. So diverge, what I mean by that is you really want to open it up and be exploratory. Find out some more information, some more sources, some more data. So be exploratory, open it up, and then you come in and you converge. What you also want to do to prevent groupthink is maybe create several groups to work on the same issue. That's assuming that you have enough people to do that. So that way, this group will come up with something, this group will come up with something, and this group will come up with something, and then have a discussion. That's more of a structural way to diverge and then converge. Two more. Appoint a devil's advocate. And this person's role is not to be a pain in the butt, but to say, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, I think we need to look at it from this other perspective. The last one is, after you have arrived at a decision, be it by consensus or some other mechanism, encourage rethinking the position before you actually begin to execute. And ask yourself what could possibly go wrong. So don't assume that it's picture perfect. So these are some concrete ways that you can prevent groupthink. Let's talk about the last group minefield, which is social loafing. So the research is pretty clear. As you add more and more people to the group, the opportunity for social loafing increases, because people can kind of hide out and they can hide under the performance of others, so they can really have what you call diffusion of responsibility. Now, if you look at the picture of the woman there, it's kind of a dated picture. Her name is Kitty Genovese. Some of you may have heard about Kitty Genovese. Sad story. What happened was she was on the streets of Brooklyn, and they imagined there were a number of people that were observing and watching her as she was kind of walking down the street on a Brooklyn street. She got stabbed numerous times while people were observing. And not only that, these people were also observing other people observing while she was being stabbed. No one, not a single person, came to her rescue, did anything. Kitty Genovese died. She got stabbed to death. And it perplexed social psychologists. They said, how could this have happened? This woman's on the street, and you have people stabbing her, and nobody does anything. And what they concluded is that there were so many people that responsibility was diffused, so they called this the bystander effect. That can happen with groups. You have so many people that are involved that everybody's thinking that somebody's going to do this. I don't have to do it, but I know you're going to do it. They're thinking it too. Doesn't get done. So you want to watch out for that. The other is why do you carry certain people? A lot of times I'll get an email and say, so-and-so's not carrying their weight. And I send an email back. Are you carrying them? In a lot of cases, the group is carrying them. Why? Because they don't feel comfortable providing that other individual with feedback. So maybe you need not to carry that person. Provide them with some feedback. The other aspect of social loafing, which you really can't control per se, is some people, as my grandmother would say, are just downright trifling. And trifling means lazy. So that's where you have to hold them accountable. Or you may have to say, you know what, I know that person's trifling and lazy. We've talked to them, we've provided feedback, nothing's happening. So in order for us to get the grade that we think we deserve, then we just have to move forward. But there are some ways to prevent social loafing. So let me focus on those. One is make individual contributions identifiable. Now, sometimes that happens when you're being graded on group projects, because the faculty member may say, okay, the group is going to get a grade, and then each individual also get a grade based upon their participation. That could be through, they write a piece, or it could be the work is divided up so you can identify them, or it could be that all the group members do a 360. The other is make individuals feel that they are making valuable contributions to a group. So say, for example, I've been assigned to check the references. And I think, that's really not that important, because the references are really not part of the grading rubric. So, I can slack off on that. But it could impact overall presentation. So whoever's leading the group yet may have to say, Marty, that role is very important. The other is keep the group as small as possible. Now, I realize that in a kind of school setting, you may not necessarily have control over that. But suppose the faculty member assigns a group of 30 people, or 20 people. You can subdivide it. So subdivide it between maybe 7 to 8. So you can do that and then reconvene. Also, give the individual direct feedback. So again, you're not being confrontational, but you're sharing your observations and you're sharing your concern and asking the question, is there anything that I can do or we can do to kind of support you in this? Lastly, recognize those that do not engage in social loafing. So if people are contributing, and acknowledge that, recognize that, celebrate that. Because fundamentally what you want to have happen is you want people to get to work. As they say, get her done. Now, I've shared with you some ways to prevent groupthink, prevent social loafing. the ideal way to maybe structure a team for a high-performance team, gave you some examples from 2 video clips. And you still say, you know, Marty, after all this, I still hate working in groups. And I can appreciate that. But hopefully you have some concrete ways to address this. And what I would encourage you to do is share this presentation with others in this group so you come from a common platform and a common experience. Thank you very much.